Hello and welcome to the Star Wars Stuff podcast, where we talk about all things Star Wars. My name is James. So this is the first time our podcast is actually used to get vocal. So want to say hello and thank them for reaching out to us and giving us this opportunity to put ourselves out there onto this channel. And if you have a podcast and you do this is pretty cool. It's a really easy to use thing. But anyways, so yes, this is the Star Wars Stuff podcast, as I said before, and where we talk about all things Star Wars. A little bit about this podcast. We are a non-toxic podcast, if you may. We despise, not despise, it's a kind of a strong word, but we don't tolerate any negativity. Like, we don't any of that stuff that you see when people just like trash Star Wars, and a lot of those people are clicks, and we're not about that. We don't do any of that. We try to report the facts. We try to report everything fairly, and we love the movies. Like, we genuinely love all the movies in the podcast. Yeah, you know, one of our hosts, Joseph, he actually does not like he doesn't like Attack of the Clones, which I it's not the best, if you may, but it's still a pretty solid movie in my opinion. But yeah, so that's a little bit about us. Our podcast has been going since March of 2017, and it started off with just two of us. My buddy David and I decided one day to start a podcast, and we started with just two lapel mics connected to our shirts and our phones, and I synced up the sounds and editing, and it sounded terrible. But over time, we have improved. We've gotten microphones, and thanks to our patrons right here, we've been able to get new microphones, new equipment, stands, everything. So we'd like to thank our patrons for that as well. But yeah, so that's a little bit about our podcast, where we started, and our first episode was March of 2017, as I said, and it was the first. It was the day the digital copy of The Last Jedi came out. And it was my and David's first time really talking to each other. We knew each other, but we hadn't really ever spoken to each other. And so it was kind of funny, us, just sitting down talking about The Last Jedi, because that was our first episode, was just talking about The Last Jedi. And I found out that he didn't like The Last Jedi as much as I did, so it made for a fun conversation. But in that fun conversation, we found out that we both love Star Wars, and even though we had different opinions, it was still perfectly fine, and we were still still happy and with each other pretty much, and we still kept going talking about Star Wars. And that's when I knew that our podcast was different, that we have people who disagree about some things, but in the end it's Star Wars and we love it. And so we just keep we just get together each week, and it's grown quite a bit. We now have way more hosts available, and unfortunately it's just me today, so hopefully you don't hopefully it's fine, it's just me today, like I said, so we'll just go with that. But so I wanted to discuss a little bit about Star Wars, and about the lot of news that comes out with Star Wars, as we try to give you the most honest news that we possibly can here at the Star Wars Stuff podcast. And one of the things that's been making the rounds a lot lately is the fact that they are going to nullify the sequel trilogy: Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. And let me move this up a little bit. So there we go. Yeah, is that good? No, don't worry about it. Anyways, so yeah, there's all these rumors going around that they are going to completely nullify the sequel trilogy. And I've had a lot of people come up to me and ask me, like, is this true? Is this true? Are they really going to do away with, these movies and then kind of Star Trek it in a way, and like have like an alternate timeline going on? No, the answer is no, that's not going to happen. It was one guy who put that rumor out there for everybody to like kind of hold on to, and it just took off. So no, it wasn't. It's not true. The sequel trilogy happened. Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker have all happened, and they are officially Star Wars canon, and they're not going anywhere. So that's one of the things that we report on, is we find out what's been said, and we do our research. And yeah, so that's one of the things. They're not doing away with those movies. So what I thought I would do today, since this is kind of our first time being on here, and maybe not all of you are Star Wars fans. I know we have Marvel fans on, Fandom Friday, other fans, Harry Potter fans, Lord of the Rings fans, which I love all of that. I love all of that, but Star Wars just has a special place, in my heart because I love Star Wars since I was a kid. So some common misconceptions about Star Wars are they're everywhere. Anybody I ever talk to about Star Wars, they say, so why do you like it? And I say, I love it because the story is so rich and the story is just so epic that you can sit and talk for hours and hours and hours. And even though two people or three people have seen the same 9 movies, each person saw something different in each of the 9 films, to where each person's opinion, each person's view is completely unique. And so you learn a lot of cool things about Star Wars, which is why I love Star Wars and I love talking about Star Wars. But one thing I always get whenever I ask anybody, like, so why don't you like Star Wars? And I always ask, why haven't you ever seen it? The one thing I always get is people always say, aren't they like really long? That is the most common answer, and I get whenever I ask people why they haven't seen Star Wars is, aren't they really long? And no, they're not. The longest Star Wars movie is, I think, 2 hours and 32 minutes, and that was The Last Jedi, which came out in 2017. Every other movie is under that. And well, what makes me laugh is a lot of people watched Endgame, and that was over 3 hours long, and nobody really complained about that. And that's another thing. A lot of people always say, like, aren't there like bunches and bunches of Star Wars movies? Well, there's 9 Star Wars movies. That's it, just 9. And you have your other 2, Solo and Rogue One, and you have your cartoons. But in reality, the movies you need to watch are just 9, as opposed to 20 plus that you have to do for Marvel to get to Endgame. So, like I said, just these things that people have an idea of what Star Wars is, and then you explain it to them and they just always go, what, really? It's like, yeah, like, and I always ask, did you watch Endgame? And they go, yeah, I loved it. I was like, well, you had to watch 20 plus movies to get there. Whereas with Star Wars, you just have to watch 9 movies and that's it. And you're good. You're great. You've seen one of the best stories ever told. So that's one thing that I always have a conversation with people. And they're always blown away when they find out it's just 9 movies as opposed to 20 plus. Another thing that a lot of people who are not Star Wars fans, one of the things that they always say is like, hey, it's confusing. The timeline is so confusing. And I get it. As somebody, I consider myself, and we discussed this in our podcast, I consider myself a Star Wars fan like 1.5, like, because I wasn't there at the beginning. I was born in 88. The Return of the Jedi came out in 83, so I didn't get to, I wasn't there for any of like the main Star Wars. But I found Star Wars in the middle of whenever there really wasn't anything. We had books, there was video games out, like the expanded universe was happening. I didn't catch any of that. I was just focusing on 4, 5, and 6 and the adventures of Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo. Like for me, that was that was Star Wars, and it was great. It was perfect. And then in 99, we got the prequels. And so like I said, I consider myself a Star Wars fan 1.5. So for me, understanding the timeline of how the movies are and everything that's going on is a piece of cake. That's a piece of cake for me. But for some people, they don't understand. They get confused. And it is kind of confusing if you're not used to it. But once you kind of figure out how the movies were made, and once you figure out why George Lucas did what he did, it starts to make a lot of sense. So I'm going to try to break it down for y'all in a very, 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 very simple way. So in 1977, oh, I like my shirt. So in 1977, George Lucas came out with Star Wars, and that was all what it was called. It was just called Star Wars. And it was one of those movies that it didn't look like it was ever going to get made. It was very, very difficult for George Lucas to make it. And he almost had a heart attack while he was making the movie. And it was one of those movies that, if you research that production, it's amazing the movie came out in the first place, because of how much trouble it was there. And so the movie comes out as the biggest movie of all time. And it was the movie just kept growing and growing, and people were going back and watching this movie over and over again. And there's amazing stories of people who first watched it and how they said, the opening crawl started, the ship flew over the camera, then the Imperial Star Destroyer flies over the camera, and people were screaming and yelling in the theater. I love that story. It's a beautiful story. So Star Wars comes out, biggest movie of all time. Studio is like, okay, Mr. Lucas, what would you like to do next? Which is completely different than what he was doing at the beginning, when production started, which they were the production in Fox was like, okay, this movie, yeah, whatever, this space movie, okay. They didn't care. They were trying to shut that movie down because of how much money it was taking, how much time it was taking, and they didn't really trust George Lucas. But then, of course, when Star Wars comes out, hey, you're the best director in the whole world. We're going to do whatever you say. And so George Lucas came out with Star Wars, and he says, okay, I'm going to do my sequel, but it's going to be called 5. And the studio was like, okay, 5 doesn't make any sense. And he says, don't worry, it will. And I want to go back and change Star Wars to 4, and I want to call it A New Hope. And so they said, okay, so it's not Star Wars. He says, no, the whole thing is called Star Wars. But each Star Wars movie is an episode, and each episode has a different name. And so the studios were like, okay, go for it. And so in 1980, whenever, which was 40 years, we celebrate the 40-year anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, which is our logo right there. When Empire Strikes Back came out, it was called Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And a lot of people were kind of confused, but those who had gone to the movies and seen the re-release of Star Wars saw that it was now called Episode 4, A New Hope. So in the 83, Episode 6 comes out, which is called Return of the Jedi. And then all these years later, 1999, George Lucas then said, okay, now here's Episode 1. This is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This is going back and starting all over again, and we're going to show you what led up to the Star Wars movie that you love so much. And it was really crazy when I first kind of figured out that that's what he was doing, and it was really, it was exciting for me because I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting more Star Wars. There's more Star Wars toys coming out. Because if you ask any Star Wars fan, one of the best things in the whole world are the toys. There's so many great toys. And if you look behind me, that's actually just like a tenth of the toys I have. At my childhood home where I grew up, the toys are kind of, they're going everywhere there. And so I have a ton of Star Wars toys at my parents' house. And, but yeah, so like I said, Episode 1 came out. Everybody was shocked that it was actually happening, that we were going to be getting this story that was going to finally like be finished, if you may. And for me, that was just a lot of fun. And that was just a really, really great thing to happen when the prequels came out, because that meant more Star Wars. Somebody just wrote your thoughts on The Mandalorian. Thoughts on The Mandalorian? I love The Mandalorian. I love The Mandalorian a lot. Like, that Mandalorian was really, really great. I felt the getting Jon Favreau in there to write that story and to create this character and this mysterious character that we were all kind of like, who is this guy? Like, what is he all about? The Mandalorian was amazing. It was a Western in space. It was raw. It was gritty. And it was what Star Wars needed outside of Star Wars. And then, of course, you introduce the child, or as the world calls him, Baby Yoda. And it just took the world by storm. And so I love the fact that this thing in Star Wars is, this child just took over the whole world. Somebody posted a picture, and there was like graffiti all over this under this bridge, and it was the child, or Baby Yoda, under there. So I thought that was always really great. But yeah, The Mandalorian is amazing. I'm so excited for season 2 that's coming out in October of this year. I'm pumped for it. I think it's going to be awesome. And yeah, like I said, I'm really excited for that. But yeah, back to the prequels came out. And so that was called Episode 1, Episode 2, and Episode 3, which came out in 2005, Revenge of the Sith. And I was a junior in high school, I believe, when that movie came out, and I was all about Star Wars. No, I can't remember. I was in high school when that came out. And so then after that, we were, kind of Star Wars, there wasn't any Star Wars for 10 years. We had some video games, we had The Force Unleashed, and which was a great game. It was a great story. And then the day came in 2012 when they made the announcement that George Lucas had sold Lucasfilm to Disney, and that there was going to be more movies coming out. and then they announced Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and Mark Hamill are coming back. And then we got to see the continuation and finally the finale of the story that started back in 77. And that was insane, man. Just that whole build up in 2015. If you ever go back and listen to our episodes, wherever on Spotify podcast, on Apple Podcast, if you ever go back and listen to those episodes, we were, I mean, we talk about that 2015 year. My buddy David, man, he said every day he was looking on the news and seeing what was new about Star Wars, what was new about Star Wars. And I was always under the impression that sooner or later the joke was going to come out that there wasn't going to be a Star Wars movie in 2015. And then somebody be like, James, you really thought? So yeah, I was always convinced, even up until the day the movie came out, that something was going to happen to where they were like, oh yeah, the movie's not coming out, James, sorry. But it did. The Force Awakens came out. I remember that day. I remember sitting in that theater just in shock. And I felt like I did when I was a kid, when I watched, The Phantom Menace in theaters, because it was like, this is Star Wars. I'm getting Star Wars again. And I never thought I would ever get Star Wars again. And so Force Awakens, that whole build up that year, 2015, was insane. The hype train of The Force Awakens it's a lot bigger than I think you remember. A lot of people kind of forget how hyped it was. And it was just 5 years ago too, which is insane. But the hype level for that movie was absolutely insane. And you get there to The Force Awakens, the movie comes out, and everybody was just in awe of it. And then, of course, there was a lot of controversy about the movie when it came out. A lot of people were like, well, it's just, it's a remake of the other movie. You could say it was, you could say maybe, but for me, it was the perfect Star Wars movie that needed to come out. It was a perfect Star Wars movie that needed to bring people back to Star Wars. And that was what was most important, because the prequels are very, very divisive. A lot of people had problems with the prequels. A lot of people had problems, with characters, and a lot of people had with the performances. So there was a huge disconnect, it felt like, with Star Wars fans and the movies, and so whenever Force Awakens came out, J.J. Abrams had the most impossible job ever, which was to bring everybody back. And that was insane. The fact that he was able to make this Star Wars movie and to get everyone, all the fans, new and old, back to the theater to watch it. And it was great to see Harrison Ford on camera. It was great to see Carrie Fisher on camera, and may she rest in peace, like that. She was incredible as Leia Organa. She was a general in Force Awakens. And it was amazing to see Mark Hamill at the end, and just that ending shot of Luke Skywalker there at the very end was just such like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is, it's happening. And then the movie ended, and I was so mad because, like, at the end of The Force Awakens, when she's walking up the stairs, what's going to happen. She's going to find him. But in the back of my mind, I was like, this is the end, man. This is the end of the movie. I was really, really disappointed that it ended where it did. But hey, it was good. I got to see The Last Jedi after that. And then The Last Jedi was where, a lot of people got turned off with Disney and Star Wars. And so that's a whole other subject. And I know I got a few people watching this thing, and I just kind of want to know what their thoughts are on The Last Jedi. And like I said, The Last Jedi was a moment in Star Wars. It was either you hated it and you were done with Star Wars, or you loved it and you were on board for what was going to happen next. So I personally loved the Last Jedi. I thought The Last Jedi was great. I thought The Last Jedi was a Star Wars movie that I wasn't expecting. And it was a Star Wars movie that didn't quite follow the formula that you would expect Star Wars to. But I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was great. I thought it was fun, and to see a new Star Wars movie unlike anything we'd ever seen before, and to see a character as beloved as Luke in a way you'd never seen before. And so for me, the Last Jedi was an important Star Wars movie, and I absolutely loved it. Like I said, I thought it was such a great film, and it was funny because the movie ended, and I got home. And then I looked, and then all the reviews for it on IMDb were just terrible. People were like, "I'm done with Star Wars," and I was like, "Did I watch the same movie that these guys watched?" And it was rather shocking to see that reaction, and that was around the time these toxic fans started coming out, and all these like really amazingly negative YouTube channels started, and people started to really badmouth Star Wars and badmouth Star Wars fans, and saying if you like The Last Jedi, you're stupid, you don't understand Star Wars. Star Wars is over. And people were telling Kathleen Kennedy needs to resign, and all these. If you go back and look at the YouTube videos during that time, a lot of the Star Wars like big YouTube channels and these guys who have millions upon millions of listeners and subscribers, they were just saying down with Kennedy, down with Disney, down with Lucasfilm. And some of them are even saying Kathleen Kennedy is going to retire, Kathleen Kennedy is leaving, she needs to leave. And it was really weird at that time, because for me, like I said, Star Wars has been a big part of my life, and to see Star Wars fans kind of react that way to it was shocking. I just didn't think that that was possible. I was really naive. And so the podcast, the Star Wars Stuff podcast we created, was just a way for people who love Star Wars to be able to listen to people who love Star Wars, and to be able to kind of be like, and we want to be as positive as we possibly be, and we're not looking for clicks. We're not looking to post a video that's going to get a lot of clicks with all wrong information. We try to post the most honest information we can, and so for us, it's easy for us to talk about Star Wars because we love Star Wars. We love it so much. And so even though, like I said in our podcast, we have people who aren't big fans of The Last Jedi, we're all still friends, and we all can still sit and have a good conversation about it. And yeah, I agree. They hated it because it wasn't the same. Talking about The Last Jedi, I agree. Yeah, a lot of people were just like, "This isn't Star Wars." And I had a conversation with my buddy Colin about The Last Jedi, and he said that it was a good conversation, mind you. It wasn't like we were arguing. He said that it wasn't like Luke to grab the lightsaber and toss it behind him. Like Luke Skywalker never would have done that. And that's what he told me. Luke Skywalker never would have grabbed the lightsaber at the beginning of The Last Jedi and thrown it over his shoulder. And I looked at him and I said, that's the point. Luke Skywalker would never do that, because he's not the Luke Skywalker we know. Because at the end of the movie, he becomes the Luke Skywalker we know. There's a character arc that he has that's unique from any of the other kind of Star Wars characters we've had. I mean, maybe not as epic as Darth Vader, but then again, Darth Vader had 6 movies to, tell his story arc. Whereas, Luke in The Last Jedi had one movie to kind of start at one spot and then go through, and then at the very end of the film have just this complete 180 and show this power that we never thought we'd ever see. And a lot of people I know were kind of like, it wasn't cinematic enough for Luke to do what he did. It wasn't cinematic enough for him to not really be there. And for me, it was very cinematic that he wasn't there, and that he appeared completely invincible. And I thought that was amazing. I thought that was an incredible image of him standing there getting blasted by all these blasters, and nothing happens to him. He doesn't even get a scratch, and he even does the joking, like he brushes his shoulder like, hey, nothing. And oh, hey Josiah, how you doing? And so for me, that's why I love The Last Jedi, is because it's a character arc that I wasn't used to seeing in Star Wars, and the fact that it happened in a Star Wars movie for me made it amazing. And I loved it. I thought The Last Jedi was a great film, and I don't want to go and say years from now it may be considered The Empire Strikes Back, because when The Empire Strikes Back came out, that wasn't well received as it is now. I mean, we just celebrated the 40th anniversary, and our podcast, we did a whole podcast talking about the production of the movie. We did a whole episode. We did a whole commentary on our Patreon about the celebration of The Empire Strikes Back. But the reason we did that, one, is because it's Star Wars, of course, but two, because it's a Star Wars movie that is very loved and it's a Star Wars movie that some Star Wars fans consider the best out of the saga, which I do. I consider The Empire Strikes Back the best out of the entire saga. And I also, I know my buddy Joseph, who's on the podcast as well, he said The Empire Strikes Back is possibly his favorite film of all time. And some people I've heard consider it one of the greatest movies of all time. And it's such a well made film. The story goes a place you never thought it was going to go. Characters go through things you never thought they were going to go through. And the outcome of the movie is such a shock that you're just like, what happens next? I want to know what happens next. The movie came out in 1980, and not everybody was on board for that. A lot of people didn't like it. If you ever go back and read some of the reviews, a lot of reviewers and fans, if you may, were just like, what was the point? Why did the movie end with Han Solo being kidnapped? The movie should have ended with them saving Han Solo, so it's a happy ending. What's the whole point of Cloud City and introducing Lando Calrissian at the very end of the movie if you don't even do anything with him later on at the end of the movie? And you read those things knowing what you know, which is Return of the Jedi came out, and then you see what happened next. It all makes sense, but at the time when people first watched The Empire Strikes Back, none of that made any sense. And so it did get a lot of bad rap over the years, and throughout the years, though, it's grown to this just amazing status as being one of the greatest sequels ever made. And if you ever kind of look at whenever a sequel comes out, like a big franchise sequel, one reviewer will say, it wasn't The Empire Strikes Back of the series, but it was still pretty good. They'll always compare it to Empire Strikes Back because it's, like I said, it's one of the best sequels ever and one of the best movies ever made. And so The Last Jedi, I don't want to go as far as to say The Last Jedi may become the next Empire Strikes Back, because that's kind of bold to say because of how great it was. But I think maybe throughout the years, The Last Jedi will be looked at differently. And, I don't have any kids now, but I have a feeling that when my kids are born and they watch all the movies together, they're going to have the whole story and it's going to make complete sense to them. Whereas for us, we had that 2 years between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker where everybody was trying to figure out what was going to happen, why it was a bad movie. And it was shocking to just kind of to see that reaction when The Last Jedi came out. And so, like I said, our podcast, we do everything we can to be positive and to state the facts and like we said, just to love Star Wars and talk about Star Wars. I nerd out about Star Wars. That's one of the best things that we do is we just completely nerd out about Star Wars because it's a lot of fun just to kind of sit there and, talk a lot about Star Wars each week and to be able to have people to sit there and do it. I'll thank you very much, Josiah. That was a nice comment you gave us there on YouTube. Appreciate it. Yeah, we do our best, man, to give the best and most honest, information that we can. And we hate when we see something explode on the internet and it's negative, one, and two, it's completely false. Like the whole, like I just said at the beginning of this thing, they're going to completely erase the new, the sequel trilogy and start over. It's not true. I saw so many news outlets take that story and just run with it without really looking that it was honestly a guy by himself who made the story up. And it's one of those things that amazed me that so many people believed, but in the end, it's not true at all. Those 3 movies are canon. They're here to stay. And I love them. I thought they were all really great. And yeah, I mean, with every movie, even Star Wars, I do have my problems with, certain parts of the movie. I have my problems with even the original trilogy as well. Like there was things that were said in that movie that didn't make any sense. And there's things that were said in the prequels that didn't make any sense and things that are said in the sequel trilogy that don't make any sense. But that's what makes Star Wars so fascinating, that you can sit there and have those long, long conversations with people and really like dive deep into it and start, kind of filling in those gaps yourself with your own imagination. And it's one of those things that it just amazes me that that's what George Lucas was able to create for all of us. And if you've never seen Empire of Dreams, watch it. It's an incredible documentary about the productions of the original trilogy. And one of the things that George Lucas says in that, which always stuck with me, he says, if I can have people in a room talking about Star Wars, he says, if I can have people in a room, fans discussing theories and everything, he goes, then I've done good. Like that's what he always wanted, and that's what I think he succeeded. Let me see what the I'm sorry, your name, Craig. The obese Obama. He asked, "Do you think the Rise of Skywalker was kind of rushed?" Yes, yes, it was. And there's a reason why it was rushed. There's a reason why Abrams and Chris Terrio had to do what they did was because if you remember, Colin Trevorrow and what was his name? Chris Connolly, I believe, were the original screenwriters of Episode 9, Duel of the Fates. That was what the movie was originally called, was Star Wars Episode 9, Duel of the Fates. And if you have to check it out, it leaked online, and there's a lot of concept art that leaked online as well. And the script is very good. I'm not going to lie, it's a really well made script. And it's one of those movies that you could tell they had the plan from Force Awakens to Duel of the Fates. They had every part built into that, to where even if you went to some of the cartoons, like Rebels, even the cartoon that was on the Disney Kids called the Resistance, there's things that were mentioned in there that were going to tie into Duel of the Fates. And Duel of the Fates was such an amazing film, but then when Carrie Fisher passed away, Trevorrow couldn't quite figure out how to work the movie around not having Leia in the movie because of how important she is. And so ultimately he left the production. J.J. Abrams comes in to save the day with Chris Terrio as well, the screenwriter of Argo, which was a great movie. He also wrote Justice League, but we won't get into that. But he wrote Justice League? No, it was Batman versus Superman. He wrote Batman versus Superman. So they came in and they quickly wrote The Rise of Skywalker. They bring in Palpatine because Palpatine wasn't originally in the Rise of Skywalker or Duel of the Fates. And so a lot of these things that they introduced in Rise of Skywalker, they had to get done right away at the beginning of the movie. That's why when you watch The Rise of Skywalker, the movie starts, you get Palpatine immediately. Even the opening line of the opening crawl is the dead speak, which was like, I remember when I read that in the theater, I was like, okay, I'm not used to seeing that type of, wording before, Star Wars movie. But yeah, they had to get everything put into that movie to set up what was going to happen at the end, and to set up the fact that who Rey was and how, and then they did really good tying it all together. But you can really tell that was not the plan for what was supposed to happen in Episode 9. And it's one of those things, like I said, I love The Rise of Skywalker. In fact, I'm wearing a Rise of Skywalker shirt. I was there at Celebration whenever they showed that last trailer. I mean, the first trailer when you hear Palpatine laugh at the end. And at the time, I thought it was all planned. But then, of course, maybe it was my fault for reading all behind the scenes stuff, and then I found out that it wasn't planned, that they just kind of were like, here's Palpatine. So yeah, the beginning of The Rise of Skywalker is very rushed. A lot of the movie feels rushed, but in the end I love it because it's Star Wars, and the ending of that movie is very powerful for me with what Rey says. Her very last line is very powerful. But if you were to ever read Duel of the Fates, there's a moment in there, which I'll tell you about right now. And it's a moment that it's a moment that if they would have done it in The Rise of Skywalker, every Star Wars fan would have loved it. And no problem, Josiah. Glad we're helping you out and all the way in Australia. And Texas is really hot right now, and everyone's quarantined. Everyone's freaking out now. But I hope all y'all are safe. By the way, hope all of you and your families are perfectly safe. Just want to say that before I go on. So, okay, Duel of the Fates. Here we go. There was a moment in Duel of the Fates that I when I read the script, I got teary-eyed because it was like, "Oh my gosh, why did they not do this?" So in the movie, R2D2 gets messed up, and to the point where he's almost completely destroyed, even worse than what he was when we saw him at the end of A New Hope during the Battle of Yavin. And so he's all messed up and he can't move anymore. And so BB-8 goes into his brain and takes out his memory, and then BB-8 goes and helps save the day. And it's awesome. It's so cool. It's so cool. And they're able to repair R2D2. So they put R2D2 back together and they give the memory card to Leia, and they say, here's his memory. And then Leia kneels down and puts the memory chip back into his system, which would have been reminiscent of her getting the putting the information into R2 at the beginning of A New Hope. So they would have actually framed it just like that moment in A New Hope, as she's kneeling down. And R2D2's head turns on, his head rolls around, and then he starts to project images from the other movies right there. And it makes sense that that would have happened because his memory is coming back. So you're just seeing fragments of all the movies from his point of view. Man, I got chills thinking about that because it's one of those things that it would have tied the whole saga together, and we all would have been like, man, R2 had it all in his head. R2 had everything in his head. And it's one of those things that we were supposed to get with Duel of the Fates, and we never got it. And oh man, I just that just thinking about that would have just been a really, really, really great. And it makes me sad that we didn't get to see that in The Rise of Skywalker. But like I said, with The Rise of Skywalker, we found out that the whole saga was a Skywalker versus Palpatine, and we had one baddie the whole time. And for me, that's really epic. That's really huge if you think about it. The fact that this guy begins episode one and goes all the way through to the very end. For me, that was so great. And I loved it. I love The Rise of Skywalker. And like I said, yeah, there's things I wish they would have been done differently, but I still really, really liked it. And so yeah, that's a really long answer for do you think The Rise of Skywalker was kind of rushed? Yes, it was. So anyways, what else can we talk about with Star Wars today besides, I don't know, everything? I mean, like we said, we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back, which is considered one of the greatest, like I said, one of the greatest sequels of all time. And fun fact about it, a lot of people always think that George Lucas, directed all the Star Wars movies. He didn't. Irvin Kershner directed The Empire Strikes Back. Kirsch, as he was also called, and he was a lecturer, a professor at USC, and George Lucas asked him to do his movies. So it was I love that story of that, the fact that a student had talked to the teacher, hey, you're gonna work for me now, and I need you to direct a Star Wars movie. And so that was so cool. The Cassian Andor series, dude. Yes, Cassian Andor series. I am so pumped for, because one, Tony Gilroy is going to write it, which shocks me. Tony Gilroy has said multiple times he's not a Star Wars fan, but he did come through and he did finish Rogue One. And rumors are like, the more time that passes, the more we're finding out about Rogue One. And apparently, man, he redid a ton of that movie. He rewrote a ton of what we got with Rogue One. And it's shocking to know a Star Wars fan was able to do that well. And so now he's taking over Cassian Andor. And I'm pumped for it because we're going to see a story in Star Wars that's very unique. And we're going to see a side of the rebellion that we've never seen before. Yeah, we see Rebels, we've seen Rogue One, but with Cassian Andor, his story is very dark. And there's that beautiful line in Rogue One where he's like, now the rebellion's real for you. I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. We're going to see that now. We're going to see what he's been going through. And for me, that's just such a fascinating thing to kind of think about. And I think it's going to be the genre. It's going to be very spy-esque, like espionage type of thing. I think that's going to be a cool, fascinating story to see, and I'm super excited for it. And we should be getting that. I don't know. In my mind, what would be awesome is if if they release Cassian Andor in the fall of next year, and what they will do is they'll push Mandalorian season 3 back 2 years. So we'll get Mandalorian season 3 in 2022, along with Taika Waititi's Star Wars film, which also is coming out in 2022, and that next year during the fall we'll get the first Cassian Andor series. Or why not both? Why not get Cassian Andor series and Mandalorian season 3 next year in 2021? And then in 2022, guess what we have in 2022? The Obi-Wan Kenobi series, hopefully. That one, man, that one is up in the air right now because we're all still trying to figure out if it can be done. The director of all of those is going to be Deborah Chow, who directed 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, and she's amazing, by the way. She's such a great, great director. We're still trying to figure out whether or not the scripts are being are completed right now, because we had at the Star Wars, they took a break and they're series right now, so we're still on the fence about that, about if it's when that's actually going to go into production. But as for Cassian Andor, I believe they are ready to go. And if I had to guess, I would say that goes into production either at the end of this year or at the beginning of next year. But that's just my opinion. I think that's what's going to happen. Did you like the final season of Clone Wars? Yes, I did. Mind you, I will say, like, the Bad Batch was a cool story arc. Ahsoka's story arc was really, really good. But those last 4 episodes, man, oh my gosh. Those last 4 episodes were just like, it was insane how well those were done and how well they looked too. Like, if you ever go back, look at the original, first season, and then look at those graphics from that one, man, oh my gosh. It was insane. It was such a great, just last 4 episodes. And my buddy David made the prediction that he says the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars may be like mandatory viewing for Star Wars fans. Like, just as these, the Skywalker saga 9 films, the original trilogy is like mandatory. If you're gonna watch Star Wars, you need to watch this. I have a feeling that people are gonna go like, all right, if you're gonna watch Star Wars, you have to watch these last 4 episodes of Clone Wars. But then, of course, when you do that, you got to go back and watch all of them. And man, that last season of Clone Wars was really, really great. The last shot of it was just like, that was perfect. The shot of the helmet in the snow and Vader walking away. I can't imagine any other image to end the Clone Wars than that. I mean, I thought that was beyond amazing. It would be cool to see maybe more, to see what's going on during the original trilogy of, some of these characters who did survive. Like, I want to know what Ahsoka was doing the entire time of 4, 5, and 6. I want to know what Rex was doing. I want to know all of that. And rumor has it, with season 2 of Mandalorian, even maybe season 3 of Mandalorian, we're going to get Ahsoka and Rex in the movie. That's exciting, and hopefully they do flashbacks like how they did with Mandalorian season 1, where they did flashbacks. That's what I'm really, really hoping for, that they do that with Mandalorian season 2. But yeah, Clone Wars was awesome. The last season of Clone Wars was amazing, and I can't wait to see what Dave Filoni does next with Star Wars. And because Dave Filoni has proven with Rebels, Clone Wars, and now with The Mandalorian that he understands Star Wars, and that he knows what us Star Wars fans really, really love and really, really want. And he's been giving it to us, man. He's been giving us like some great content. And if y'all haven't seen The Gallery on Disney Plus, which I'm pretty sure y'all have, but if you haven't, go watch it, man, because anytime Filoni starts to talk, you're just like, dude, this dude knows Star Wars. I mean, he knows Star Wars. Like, if he's the Star Wars fan that if you ever want to just talk Star Wars for 24 hours, that's the guy to go to, because he'll have something about every single thing. And so you get somebody like that in the creative chair at Lucasfilm,
and man, he's just giving us great stuff. And it's amazing how closely he and Favreau are working on Mandalorian, and so it's really cool to hopefully see like what's going to happen in season 2 of Mandalorian, with Filoni kind of sprinkling in some Clone Wars bits and even some Rebels, stuff in there. And for me, that's just the best. That's the absolute best thing. Dave Filoni's awesome. My goal one day is to meet Dave Filoni and to thank him for the amazing work that he's done, because it's all pretty great. But yeah, again, sorry, Obese Obama. That's my very, very long answer to your question about the last season of Clone Wars. It was awesome. It was so great. It was so good. I wanted more. Same with Rebels. Have y'all seen Rebels? Anyone seen Rebels? Rebels is great. Rebels is so good. And that one ended in a spot that I was like, man, I need like 5 or more seasons of that. And we haven't heard anything about any more Rebels coming out. So I don't know. Hopefully soon we get it. Hopefully soon we get some information about what's going to happen next in Rebels. Star Wars Rebels sequel. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I want some Star Wars, another episode, another season of Rebels, but rumor has it, mind you, this is a rumor, it's not confirmed, we're still looking into it, and everyone's still kind of looking into this rumor. Rumor has it in Mandalorian season 2, the Rebels plot will start to come into that. We're going to find out what happened to Ezra and Thrawn. That is this thing that's up in the air right now, and we are looking frantically trying to confirm if this is true or not. But apparently Mandalorian season 2 is going to finish the Rebels storyline, which is why we haven't been hearing anything about a Rebels sequel, is because they're getting it ready for Mandalorian. Again, like I said, that's a rumor. Multiple sources have been talking about this rumor, and we're just doing our best to try to figure out if it's true or not. And it's one of those things, because of the fact that they filmed this entire series on a soundstage called the Volume, and it's so isolated that there's no leaks. There are absolutely no leaks that come out of this place. So I don't know. It's well, the rumors can just run everywhere because of that, because of the fact we have no idea what's happening there on that set. But yeah, we'll just have to see. But I would love to have another season of Rebels, and I'd also love to have them finish it up in Mandalorian. And I just, yeah, that's my answer to that one. Very long answer, like I said. But, and if you haven't seen Rebels, like I said, watch Rebels. It's great. It's on Disney Plus. It's really great. It's really great. All right. So what else? What else we got with some Star Wars talk? Like I said, not a lot of news with Star Wars has been coming out. We're frantically trying to find whatever we can. Right now, there's nothing, because a lot of the productions have stopped because of COVID-19. But yeah, we're still just trying to find whatever news we can about Mandalorian season 2. High Republic books. Ooh, the High Republic books. I'm pumped about them, but I am sad we're not getting them this year. We were supposed to get them this year for August, but it looks like that all got pushed back to January of 2021. The first chapter, I believe, or a segment of the first book by Charles Soule is out right now on the internet. They released it for you, so you can, everybody can read it. And I read the first few pages, and I like it because it doesn't feel like a Star Wars book, and which is what I was hoping for, because I want the High Republic to be like Star Wars, but not completely like Star Wars. I want it to be a whole other Star Wars thing, which is what I think is needed after the Skywalker saga has been completed, is a whole new different feel and different characters, different everything. And that's kind of hard to do because of all the history of Star Wars that we have. And how long it's been going, how long this story has been going since 1977. So the fact that this new series is coming out that's supposed to be different from all of it it was a daunting task that they had to do. But reading those few pages, it looks like they may pull it off. It looks like they may give us something that feels like Star Wars, but is not Star Wars at all. And that it's its own thing, which is what the High Republic needs. And, you know, what I'm hoping for is they fill this, they do the High Republic, and then they can go even further back after that to see what happened before the High Republic, you know. And that for me is an exciting thing. But the High Republic, I'm pumped for. And it seems like there was the what I've understood about how the story starts, how the conflict begins with the High Republic storyline and the books, the comic books, all of that that's going to be coming out is there was a ship that exploded, and it was one of those ships that should never have been touched, but it was blown up, and so the investigation begins of who did it, and through that is where the entire saga of the High Republic begins, because they bring the Jedi in to start investigating, and the Jedi at the time are the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, and so that is where the High Republic begins. And oh man, like I said, I'm nervous to see where it goes, but I'm really excited as well to you know to read it. Sorry, my earbud just beeped really loud. I don't know what that was. Hopefully y'all can still hear me, right? You still hear me? Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry. Anyways, so another Star Wars topic we have. Oh yeah, that one, the poster you see up there of Leia. I got that at Celebration. If any of y'all have been to Celebration, let me know, and I want to know whether or not we're at the same place at the same time. I've been to two of them so far. I went to Star Wars Celebration Orlando and Star Wars Celebration Chicago. And we were planning on going this year to Anaheim, and of course, with COVID-19, it got pushed back to 2022, which is exciting because that means we get, 2 years to save our money because Celebration is expensive. But also in 2022 hits, we're going to be getting that first non-Skywalker saga Star Wars movie coming out. And so that's something exciting to look for. But yeah, I stood in line for like a long time to get that poster, and I was able to be in the room when John Williams performed the Star Wars theme, and it was an amazing moment. It was a moment that I'm never going to forget, seeing John Williams live in front of an orchestra playing the Star Wars theme. It was one of the best things in the whole world. But yeah, I got that poster there at Celebration. There was another poster for The Last Jedi, which I didn't get into that panel. I was so mad, but it happens. And they had another one. So some people actually have that Last Jedi first teaser poster, but it's okay. I'm okay not having that one. But yeah, so that's that design back there. And a lot of the posters I got throughout the production of The Last Jedi, and I just grabbed these posters at any shop I could, and I was really, really happy about them. I love them a lot. And so what about Star Wars Squadron game? Ooh, okay. So the Star Wars Squadrons game comes out this year, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a Star Wars game where you could just kind of pick your missions and then just go from there. But with the Star Wars Squadron, it's a story that you're either going to be the Empire or the New Republic, and you're going to be fighting in the war, after Return of the Jedi. And it looks really exciting because it's a part of the Star Wars world that we all love. We all love to fast forward it to the space battles. We all love to see have that feeling of being inside of an X-wing, and it looks like you're going to do that. But what makes me nervous about this game is that the gameplay they've shown us is inside the cockpit, and everything looks really, really small. Everything looks really, really tiny. So it looks like you're gonna have to like sit super close to the TV to really understand what's going on. And I hope that's just just an option to how to play it. I really hope that's not like the way to play it, which is you need to be in the cockpit playing it. But I'm super excited for it. In any Star Wars game with the story mode, I'm going to play it. Like I played, if you haven't played the Battlefront 2 story mode with Inferno Squad and Iden Versio, you're missing out. That is an amazing story. And it's such a well-crafted game. and you get to play all these different characters. It's awesome. It's one of those things that everybody gets Battlefront 2 and they immediately just get online and start playing. No, actually play the story mode. Play Inferno Squad's, story mode, because it's awesome. It's so good. And then of course we just got Jedi Fallen Order that came out last year, and that was such an amazing story. And that one, the sequel, better be coming out soon, because I need that next chapter of Jedi Fallen Order. I absolutely love that game. I played it twice already. I went back and played it again because it's so much fun, and the reveals and the customization of like the character and the lightsabers is so much fun. So yeah, so the Star Wars games are doing really, really well right now, and I'm really looking forward to Squadron, because it looks cool, and plus you get to fly around. You get to fly around in an X-wing. Who doesn't want to fly around in an X-wing? Honestly, like if you had a chance, you would totally jump in an X-wing and fly around. And so this game is going to give us that opportunity to do that. So I'm super, super excited about it. But anything else? Anything else? We got about 5 more minutes of the show, and like I said, this is our first time being on this Fandom Friday, and I like to thank y'all for listening here on YouTube. It's been a lot of fun, kind of just sitting here talking. I honestly thought nobody was going to be listening, but I'm glad I got about 3 people. So hey, it's better than none. It's better than me just talking to myself. But yeah, every Monday we have our episodes out at 6 a.m. on all podcasting platforms. We also have a Patreon on the bottom. I know a lot of you are kind of new, so I don't want to throw Patreon at you, but yeah, we do have a Patreon, Star Wars Stuff podcast at Patreon, and but that's not the website. But if you ever go to Patreon, type in Star Wars Stuff podcast, you can help and donate to that. And we try to put out a lot of new content, a lot of extra stuff, a lot of bonus stuff. And now that I have this Access to the Get Vocal, I'm going to be putting a lot of live episodes on our Patreon, because this is a lot of fun. I enjoy doing this. But like I said, we have three teams for our podcast. We have the Tatooine team, which is myself and my buddy Joseph, and then we have the Hoth Squadron, which is they're up in Michigan, so it's really cold. It's Nicole and Matt, and then soon we're gonna have a Scarif Squadron, which is Colin and Brooke, and they are going to be in Florida, so they have tropical weather, so they're the Scarif Squadron. And every Monday we try to give you a brand new episode at 6 a.m. with whatever news we have and whatever theories we have, and we love doing it. And the new trilogy, the new trilogy, I have no idea what's going to happen in it, which I love, which I'm excited about, because it's this feeling of we're all going to be going to this theater in 2 years to watch this Star Wars movie, and none of us are going to have any idea where it's going to go, what's going to happen. And for me, that's just such an exciting thing to think about. And it's one of those things I'm wondering if I'm going to like research all the behind the scenes stuff, or if I'm just going to wait to be surprised. But knowing me, I'm probably going to go against my normal way of doing things. And I think I'm going to research everything I can about what's going to happen in this movie, because it's exciting to think about, because it's, like I said, it's a whole new trilogy. It's a whole new Star Wars story that where nobody has any idea about. So I'm excited for this new trilogy. And as a podcaster, it's exciting because that means we're gonna have something new each week to talk about while the production of this movie, the casting of this movie, where they're filming it, it's gonna start getting exciting. And excuse me. And I'm excited for the new trilogy. But yeah, so it looks like we're about out of time here. Like I said, we have 3 squadrons. We get our episodes out every Monday at 6. If you wanna, I think I was able to put our website here. If not, just message us and I'll send you our website for our Anchor website, so you can subscribe to whatever podcast channel you have. And also thank y'all for subscribing to our YouTube channel. We mean that. We really appreciate that. And for those of you who are on our Patreon, thank you so much for helping us out and donating and helping us get these awesome microphones. As you can see, anyways, don't worry about it. And I'd like to thank our patrons for helping us get these microphones and everything. And just want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. And we're a Star Wars community that loves Star Wars, and we're a Star Wars community that does everything we can to be positive. And we really don't like toxic fans, but that's just the way we are. If you're a toxic fan, we don't stand for any of that. We love it. We love Star Wars, and it's so much fun. And so thank y'all so much for watching this. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We'll be back next Friday for a live episode again on Fandom Friday.